Hey, flower friends. It is your friend in flowers today, and I'm feeling a little sunshiny today. Do you see why? Friends, even though today's show is all about cool flowers, and I'm going to be talking about the 3 windows of planting opportunity and direct seeding, I'm going to show a little demonstration and all that kind of stuff. I could not pass up the opportunity of sharing with you guys these beautiful sunflowers I have right here. You know, we plant sunflowers every week and we harvest them once a week right up to almost Thanksgiving. And these are one of my, every flower I'm with is my favorite, but this really is one of my favorite sunflowers. This is called Brilliance, and it's a pro cut. And I'm trying to find one that really shows it. I'm going to hold it back here, see if you can see it. Maybe not. Maybe this one. So this is kind of a yellow sunflower instead of gold, like so often. And if you can see this halo of orange that's right outside of the center disc, y'all, these sunflowers glow in the garden. They're so incredibly beautiful. And I was using them for something else, and I just couldn't resist sharing them with you guys. I mean, just look how beautiful they are. These were all harvested last night, and most of them were at this stage, which is the stage to harvest. And so they're totally beautiful. And I just wanted to share a little bit of that with you guys. So today, we are really gearing up for Cool Flowers. If you're not familiar, Cool Flowers is the name of a book that I wrote actually 11 years ago. I still can't believe it's been 11 years. This was the first book I ever wrote. And the book is about a family of flowers known as cool season hardy annuals that just kind of fell off the planet about 3 or 4 or 5 decades ago, and it's because of their awkward planting times. They're planting when their planting time is typically when we're not even thinking about gardening, and it's when we're in cool to cold conditions, and that just made us just kind of forget about them. And so I stumbled upon some information about one or two of those flowers when I was becoming a flower farmer back in 1998. And literally, I launched my flower farming business on what we now call cool flowers, cool season hardy annuals. And I'll tell you, it is probably the most humbling thing in the world to me that cool season hardy annuals are called all over the world now cool flowers after this little book. And this little book is literally just about the basic concept of how you figure out when you're supposed to plant cool season hardy annuals in your garden, right? And that's the cusp. It's not, with warm season annuals, it's like we can all wrap our head around, okay, we wait till our last frost date in spring and it's not going to be cold anymore. It's time to plant these heat lovers, and we plant them and they grow like mad all summer. And then when the first frost comes, it zaps them and kills them and we're done. It's not that simple for cool flowers. It's not super complicated, but you have to do a little bit more. And the steps are outlined in this book. And I did write this book 11 years ago, and y'all, I have learned so much since then, right? And I also wanted to share with you that over on my website, thegardenersworkshop.com, we have a really special offer going on right now. So I call the month of July the Cool Flower Month. And the reason I do that is July is the month where we should all be thinking about planning, figuring out where, if you don't already know, where you're going to be planting cool flowers, all of that kind of stuff. So we always do some special stuff in July. And so this July, we have rolled together an incredible opportunity. I mean, if you're a flower farmer, it is no brainer that you should have this cool flower course. But even if you're an avid home gardener that wants to have a spring garden like no other, over on our website, you can find it at the top of every page. Cool Flowers from Seed to Harvest. It is a beautiful video in the field demonstration from seed starting to growing the flowers, when to cut them, how to cut them, the whole 9 yards. And also over at thegardenersworkshop.com, I'm doing one more free video live training. It happens on Wednesday at 12 noon, and you can actually sign up. And it's when do you plant cool flowers? We actually go through a worksheet together live for you to find out when your planting dates are. So that's over at thegardenersworkshop.com too. So you can check that out. So we have every resource you need. But the thing about this group of flowers is, and I'll tell you who those flowers are here in a moment, but these are some of the most coveted spring blooming flowers there are. And most of us as gardeners and flower farmers either have struggled to try to grow them, and we just kind of think they don't grow here. You know, my weather conditions just aren't right. Or we just don't know where to start. And I'm here to say that pretty much everyone can plant cool flowers. You know, in zone 10 A and B, it's a little tough because they have so much heat, but everybody else can pretty much plant cool flowers. It's just that we plant perhaps at different timing. That's the key, and you have to figure it out. And that's what we're going to do in that free live training. If you want to join me for that tomorrow at 12 noon, and there's a bonus, there's a PDF in the email you get, print it, fill out the top 3 lines, bring it with you to the webinar, and you will have your dates when I'm done with you at the webinar. And then you get another bonus as well for showing up live. So we'll really get you set up to do that. So all of that's over at thegardenersworkshop.com. Now, if you don't know anything about cool flowers, so cool flowers is the sweet name that's been deemed for a group of flowers called cool season hardy annuals. And who are some of these flowers? Well, they're some of the most beloved: sweet peas, sweet williams, snapdragons, bells of Ireland, larkspur. I could go on and on. I'm up to probably about 45 or 50 that I know of. And there's some of Lysianthus is a cool season hardy annual, better known as a cool flower, right? Dill, bupleurum, nigella, poppies, Iceland poppies, breadseed poppies, all of those are cool season hardy annuals. And we've struggled with them for all these years. And so what I want to talk to you today about is, the bottom line on how do you start a particular flower, meaning do you plant it inside in whatever method you use? We happen to use soil blocking, or should you plant it out in the garden? You don't really decide that. That's pretty much written information about for each flower, and it tells you what is the preferred method, and that preferred method is based on you actually given the conditions that seed needs to break dormancy and sprout. And it's the easiest way. I'll give you a perfect example. One said cool flower that really prefers to be planted straight out in the garden, the seed out in the garden, is larkspur. Larkspur is an amazing cut flower crop. It's beautiful flowers. If you have peonies, you plant it with your peony patch. It's just beautiful, right? Well, larkspur, for the seed to actually know that it's time to wake up and sprout, is what triggers that is a variation in temperature. And what it's kind of looking for is like 55-degree nights and 70-degree days. It wiggle rooms from that, but you get what I'm talking about. Cool at night, warm during the day. Well, if you're trying to start those seeds inside, it's pretty impossible for you to provide that, right? So planting larkspur in the fall when it's cool nights and warm days is the perfect fit. That's what the preferred method is based on. What is the easiest way for you to tell that seed to start working, sprout, and start growing, right? Well, there are a handful of cool flowers that really prefer to have their seed planted out in the garden. And so there is actually, I'll show you this. In the back of the book, Cool Flowers, there's a cheat sheet on page 138, and it lists 30 of the cool flowers. And not only does it tell you what U.S. winter hardiness zone it's winter hardy to, meaning if it's hardy in your zone, you fall plant it, right? But it also tells you in another column what is the preferred way to start it. And so there's several here. Let's just look at them. There's corn cockle. It's hard to follow. Bupleurum, bachelor buttons for sure. Sorry, y'all, I'm looking for outdoors. Nigella, Orlea, Iceland poppies. That would include the poppy seed poppies, and bells of Ireland. I told you Orlea. There's a handful of them, several of them. Dill is another great one. I have a list right here in front of me. Chinese forget-me-nots, saponaria. There's so many direct sown ones. So perhaps so once people realize it's not just that you say, I'm going to direct sow everything this year and you just direct sow all the seeds. You can direct sow them. Whether they actually grow or not is a whole nother can, right? But those particular ones that on our seed packets and in the books and the resources, it tells you which way it prefers. I get more questions about how to direct sow and then weed prevention in direct sowing. And I will tell you, I have the most beautiful direct sown beds because we prevent weeds and we don't use herbicides here, y'all. So I am going to first show you, and I didn't say this, if you're watching us on a laptop or a computer, you can see that there's a ribbon of products. Everything you're going to see me mention, including the book, is available to purchase. If you're watching on a phone, that ribbon of products may actually be being blocked by the comments. So you can close the comment box and you can actually see that stuff too. So you can actually purchase while you're learning how to do this. So we're going to do a little pretending here today, y'all. And what I'm going to do is, well, first let me show you this. So Jesse has in the ribbon lined up several of our just favorite direct sowed cool flower seeds or cool season hardy annuals. But we also, I put this together probably about 20 years ago. This is one of our seed collections. And this one is called the Cold Hardy Spring Blooming Garden. So all 6 of these individually packaged seed packs can be direct sown out in the garden. And this little seed collection includes a little 3x10 suggested diagram that you can follow if you want. And all of these guys will do really well direct sown. And so I want to talk about the timing of when you actually plant. And of course, all of this is in the book, it's in the course, it's in the resources. What your window of opportunity is that we plant in the fall 6 to 8 weeks before our first historic fall frost. Okay. That is one of the 3 planting windows for cool flowers. So that's the first one. The second one is for those of us that our ground doesn't freeze in the wintertime. We have kind of mild, zone 8B and south, 8A. I'm in 8A. I'm in southeastern Virginia. It depends on the year. Some years I could practice winter planting, but a lot of people below me can actually do that. And then there is the third window of opportunity, which everyone can partake in, and that is what we call very early spring. Very early spring is, listen carefully, 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring frost. So, as an example, my last spring frost is typically mid-April. If you count back 8 weeks, that's mid-February. We always think of Valentine's Day. So from Valentine's Day for 2 more weeks, that's the 6 to 8 week window. And so that's a time. See, cool flowers will take cold, it'll take frost, it'll take snow, it'll take ice. But if it's not winter hardy where you live, remember I told you in the back of the cool flower book, it lists their winter hardiness. Let's just say a cool flower zone, black-eyed Susans. We grow about 9 different hardy annual black-eyed Susans. They're hardy to zone 5. And I'm zone 8. So that means people that are in zone 5, zone 6, zone 7, zone 8, zone 9 can all fall plant rudbeckias. Now you could plant them again in very early spring if you so very early spring planting happens about 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring frost. But here's the thing, for most of us, we still have snow on the ground. The ground is certainly wet, too wet to work. So even if you're not going to plant, or if you're planning on planting some in very early spring, you have to prepare the planting area completely in the fall. we do it. When I make my cool flower beds for fall planting, we make them. We use biodegradable film on most of them except for direct sown. And we just make 2 or 3 extra beds with the intention that that's our very early spring beds. And they literally just sit out there empty in my garden with the film on them. They're totally prepared. And we plant them in mid-February. We just walk out. Sometimes we have to sweep snow off of the bed and plant. Okay, so that's the 3 windows. Now, this seed collection, which is all direct sown, has additional instructions inside. This is just a great way to jump off and start. So if all 6 of these are winter hardy in your winter hardiness zone, that means you should fall plant them. So this would be a great little collection to start with. You don't want to plant any earlier than 6 to 8 weeks because it's just too hot. Cool flowers do not germinate in heat conditions, right? So that's why it's just so important for you to get them started at the proper time. And so now I want to show you, we're going to do a little pretending, y'all. So putting on my glove. So we are going to just pretend that this is out in the garden. We're out in my garden, and this is the top of a bed that I want to direct sow in. So one of the things that I like to pay special attention to when I'm direct sowing seeds, you don't want a lot of chunks in the bed top. That doesn't really matter when you're planting transplants. But, you know, this kind of stuff, you just want to either move it out of the way or break it down into smaller stuff because you're talking tiny seeds. Let's talk Iceland poppies. That's like the size of salt, if it's not smaller. So I have created this flat bed top, and let's just pretend again for a minute. Let's just assume that this was 30 inches wide. That's how wide my beds are. I put 3 rows when I direct sow. When I transplant, it's different. But when I'm direct sowing, I really want to set the bed up for easy cultivation. So I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just making sure my computer's plugged in. I want to make it as easy as possible to cultivate. So I'll do it, and then when I do it, and I have the cleanest, most pristine direct seeded beds ever. And it's because of the way that I plant them. So in a 30-inch bed, I would have 3 rows evenly spaced out. And that means that I can hoe, and I can hoe quickly. If I can't do something quick, I don't do it. I mean, I have too much to do, right? So let me show you how we actually plant. So this is our Japanese hand hoe. We love it. We've sold these for 20 years. Every person on this farm has 1 or 2 that they carry around with them. And why we use it for planting seeds is, see that point? Literally out in the garden, we make our troughs. I have to watch what I'm doing, y'all. And I'm going to do it again so it's more defined so that you guys can actually see, I hope. So what I've done, if y'all can see it, there's actually a little trough right here, a little V trough. And if I was planting out in the garden, I'd have another one over here and another one over here. I always do the middle one first when I'm direct sowing so I can go right down the middle of the bed. I'm the crookedest walker ever, but you just get over that. So you make your troughs. Now, why do you make those troughs? For a couple of reasons. One is so that you have a visual where you planted your seeds, right? And secondly, why would you plant your seeds just on the surface of that bed? And then when you water the entire bed because the water just runs everywhere. By having a trough like this, we only water the trough. So that doesn't water the weed seeds that are out in the bed. And it also keeps the seeds where they're supposed to be if you overwater or flood it or something, right? So I used some big seeds that aren't a cool flower seed, but I wanted to show you how I did got too many off. I'm going to show you how I would actually do it. And yes, I actually seed by hand. And people are surprised by that. It's quick. I mean, y'all, I used to seed a lot of long cool flower beds. And when you're just efficient at it and just do it, you get really good at it. So there's my trough, right here in the middle. And I literally just pick up the seeds with my fingers. And if it's a little tiny seed like Iceland poppies, I kind of move my fingers back and forth and move my hand as I'm doing that. But here I am. All right. So I am dropping a seed every couple of inches. Now, when you have little tiny seeds, you can't always see them. You always oversow, y'all. So y'all see how many seeds I'm putting. So let's just say the instructions most often say about every 6 inches. If it says every 6 inches, I'm planting a seed at least every 2 inches. When I plant bells of Ireland, which I direct seed, I oversow so much because I want an excellent stand of plants. I don't want any holes. Then you just thin them and pull them out. The seed is the most least expensive thing that we have in our whole process, right? So I am literally dropping a seed. I'm trying to pick these up, y'all. When I'm talking, I'm blowing soil. I should have wetted a little bit. So I'm just dropping a seed. Now, you have to read on your seed packet. Every seed packet that we produce has my directions right here on the seed packet. And it says here on this particular seed packet, cover seed with soil. So what that means, let's just say that we were planting Iceland poppies. Iceland poppies need light to germinate in cold conditions, but they need to be firmly seeded. So let's just say you dropped all those little tiny bits of pieces in there, little pepper. You want to be sure that the seeds actually have good contact. I use a hoe, actually our stand-up version of the hoe, and I'm just pushing, y'all. I'm not covering. I'm not moving any soil. I am just kind of squeezing the bottom of that trough to actually make sure that seed is seeded in there. But let's just say it should be covered. I literally just run my hoe down the side of the trough to cover that seed, and then do the same thing I just did with the direct scent with the no soil on top. Y'all, you just have to take a moment and actually do it. And when you plant in straight rows, straight as you can, and my fear here on my farm, the person that has to do the cultivation is the person that should plant seeds, because you see just how crooked and how crazy people plant seeds. And it is it's no wonder people can't keep them weed free. By planting 3 rows in a trough as straight as you possibly can and space them out on a 30-inch wide bed, that allows you to cultivate quickly and efficiently and move really, really fast, which is the key. So we're going to water those direct seeds every day until they sprout. And then as needed, depending on whatever it needs, like if it doesn't rain, then you're still going to need to water. But during the germination process, you need to do a lot of watering. And so we're going to water every day, and I'm going to show you a couple other little steps that I actually follow. And when you do that, about 10 to 14 days after you plant your seeds, you're going to start cultivating. And you can use the hand hoe, or we have a stand-up version that does a great job and you don't even have to bend over. But the way that a hoe works properly is when its blade is flat on the ground, right? Not like this, y'all. This is what most people do. They hold it like this and they scrape and they make piles of soil. That's not the way that you should hoe. When you hoe, a hoe blade should be flat on the ground. You drop it down 1/2 to 1 inch, and you're just going to pull it through the soil, whether you see weed seedlings or not. That's the whole point. You're extinguishing them before they've even broke through the soil, right? And you're just going to pull your hoe throughout that bed, not in the troughs, just in the flat parts between it. And you're going to do that every 10 to 14 days until the bed goes dormant, just meaning when you head into winter. And then, I mean, you can mulch and we don't mulch anymore. What we soon learned is if you hoe 2 or 3 times before you go into winter, effectively, like I just showed you, you extinguish the most of the population of the weed seeds that are on the surface. Because when you use a hoe the way I just showed you, you're not bringing up fresh weed seeds from down below. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. And then when spring comes, the chickweed and the henbit and all those cool season weeds, yeah, you might have 1 or 2 somewhere, but you don't mind bending over to pull them because there aren't carpets, because you cultivate it every 10 to 14 days. So that is how I direct sow. And so we talked about that you can plant in fall, during winter, and very early spring. And again, in the book, all the resources in the books, in the course, all of that, over at thegardenersworkshop.com. If you've just joined us, I have a free live training that'll happen tomorrow at 12 noon. When do you plant cool flowers that you can register for? You have to register to get the link and get the one-page PDF to fill out your part on the top, and then we'll fill the rest of it out during the live webinar for you to know when your planting dates are. But also our cool flower course is on sale, a third off. It's over 40% off, and it has a bonus training of how I cool season garden, how I care for the garden, and a lot of the extra steps that I do. So you get all of that, and you can learn that over there. But I want to show you a couple of more tools that are really important. So one of the things that cool season hardy annuals are super sensitive to is wet feet. And you might not think, just like I thought, that I didn't have a drainage problem. Once you garden through the winter one year, you find out that that may in fact not be the truth. Because think about this, cool season, when it's cold outside, the heat is not there. And so that means that areas that maybe were on borderline, they were okay draining, but in the summer it's so hot outside. And here where I'm in Virginia, we go from drought to, Noah's Ark, back and forth, and it quickly gets dry. So we think we just don't have a drainage problem. That doesn't happen in the winter. It snows, rains, and ices on a frequent once here on my farm. Once it gets chilly here, we go below 25 degrees. I know that the soil is never going to be dry again until next spring. You have to have all your soil work done before that occurs, right? Because the soil just never dries out. Well, if you don't have excellent drainage, many of these cool flowers are super sensitive to wet feet because wet feet lead to diseases and they just thrive in cool, moist soil. So you need to have excellent drainage. And if you're a home gardener, this is the way that I started. Obviously, we use equipment now. These are called border tools. These are the tools that gardeners use. They're different than a shovel and a pitchfork, y'all. So I want to show you this first. This is a garden spade, and the garden spade has a nice blade edge on it, so you can actually cut through soil and lift it. You can edge. Totally love this thing, and both of these are in the ribbon down below. You can buy them individually or you can buy them as a set. If you haven't ever used a true garden spade and fork, you're in for a treat. It just makes preparing soil really, really much easier. And so the garden spade is really great for lifting some soil, but this is the one I love. This, my friends, is a garden fork with some cobwebs on it. It's been sitting over in the corner. We have lots of spiders in my building, y'all. That doesn't take them but like 2 days to set up housekeeping. So this is a garden fork, and this is what we use to really crack and open the earth. And that is what improves drainage, right? I mean, for farmers that are doing big beds, border forks. Broad forks. I couldn't think of that. Broad forks, which are just a really wider garden fork, but for the average home gardener or small market grower, you just can't believe how much you can do with a garden fork. Totally love this. When I'm building a new raised bed, like when we built our demonstration beds over here, which are 16 feet long by 3 feet wide, before I built them up, I actually went through the ground with this. You jump on the fork as deep as you can push it. You don't dig, you rock it and you crack the earth. And then we built the bed on top of that. So in addition to having all that great, yummy soil and compost and organic fertilizer that was in the bed that we raised, is now that water can even drain more down into the earth. Because y'all, the best soil in the world is the soil that's in your yard. You may think it's too heavy clay and all these different things, but you just need to replenish it, to crack it open, to build it up with compost and leaf mold and those types of things, because there is nothing like soil outside. I have, I guess you call them demo beds that are made out of complete wonderful soil that we brought in, organic potting soil that was beautiful, but it dries out so much quicker. There's just nothing like roots sinking down into the soil outside. That's where all the nutrients are. It's where all the water is. And when you crack and open the earth with one of these babies, the workers can get up to work and the roots can go down. So you'll find both of those. Those are really fun tools to gift somebody if you have an avid gardener in your life. I'm telling you, that is, I can remember when getting my first one. I mean, it's just like the best thing ever. So I wanted to share those with you. And then I'm often asked, what do we use for fertilizer? I use a couple of different types. You can see both of them on our website. But the one that we've been using for the last year on and off, because different fertilizers, because they're made from different ingredients, have different microbes and different microbiology, different components. So they're all good, but they're all a little different. So, I like changing it up like every other time or so. This is the one that we've been using for the last year, and this is made out of composted turkey litter. It's got bone meal, always have to look, and turkey litter, feather meal, bone meal, and sulfate of potash. This 5-pound bag will do 250 square feet. And love this stuff because, we're feeding the soil that then takes care of our roots. With each and every application, when you use organic-based products, your soil's getting healthier each time, right? Now I want to show you just a couple of tools that I use to enhance my cool flower growing. And y'all, I don't know if you've heard me mention this yet, but this insect netting that we use now, I mean, it's great for insect netting. You know what I mean? To like keep insects from getting to your plants, but I use it for so much more. This time of the year, what I really use it for, I'm trying to find the end. Here it is. It's 6.5 feet wide, y'all. It looks like row cover, but it is very different. It does not give any thermal protection. And in fact, one of the reasons I love it so much is it allows more light to get through it and more heat to escape. So we use it for all kinds of stuff, but let me tell you how I use it for cool flowers. It's 6.5 feet wide, the same as a row cover. This is nylon and it's super stretchy and it is much more durable than a row cover is. And I fold it in half and then I roll up the sides. I make it narrow and then I roll up the sides. And y'all, I install our pre-arched wire hoops. You can find these over on our website or down below. And you can see I literally just stole this one out of the garden. And it was a sun cap that was just taken off last week. And so I install one of these about every 10 to 12 feet on the newly planted bed immediately. And then we don't sell these. You get these at a big box store. They're super heavy duty clips. I mean, my hands are so weak now, I can barely get them open, but you need a really strong clip. And I pull the insect netting down the line and it kind of sits on top right here and I clip it and the sides are open. So you're making like a little roof. That's why we call it a sun cap. And friends, it blocks the hot sun from your seedlings and it has we just don't lose seedlings anymore to the high heat of summer. But for cool flowers, we're planting in the fall. It's still a little warm outside. I mean, I'm in the South, right? Capping it with the sides open cools down that bed so very, very much. I could probably talk for half a day on the different uses of this insect netting. Totally love it. People look at it and think, oh, why don't you just use row cover? Totally different. Row cover traps more heat. It's supposed to trap heat, right? It allows more air and everything to get through it. And it just helps to cool it down. When I use it as like I do row cover, when you cover completely, that's when we fill, these are weight bags. We fill them with either gravel, sand, or even actually soil from the garden if you have enough land that you can do that. Make them about 15 pounds, and that will hold the row cover down for those types of applications, just like it does a row cover. And of course, in winter, once we get cold, I do tend to row cover my cool flowers, not because they need cold protection, because I only plant what is winter hardy in my winter hardiness zone. So that means, I mean, people are always trying to push the envelope. So funny. I did a live webinar last night, and y'all have to come. I mean, I've just taught hundreds and hundreds of people this week of figuring out when their cool flower planting windows are. But people are always like, don't you think that I'm in zone 5? Don't you think I can try to grow something that's only winter hardy to zone 6? Meaning, it's like, why do that? I mean, first off, it's harder than you think. But once you're successful growing cool flowers that are supposed to grow through your winter, then you can tackle that kind of stuff. That's not the kind of row covers that I build, or that's not the kind of tunnels that I build. I use lightweight row cover on my cool flowers on and off through the winter, depending on the conditions, to keep the varmints like deer, squirrels, and rabbits and golden retrievers off of them. But what I learned, because that's why I started using them decades ago for those purposes, what I've discovered is having that lightweight row cover on the hoops during winter, and then we use the biodegradable film for transplants with the black side up. It concentrates the winter sunshine, and that's why I attest that I have such incredible cool flower results. Why my foliage is in better shape, because my plants, I mean, it's like sending your kid out to the bus stop when it's 55 degrees outside. That's not super cold. But when the wind blows, it is cold. It's the same thing for your plants. If you were just to go and sit out in your garden on a winter day and sit out there for 8 hours, you're just going to realize how much wind there is and how much just environmental influences are there. Row cover just protects your plants from a lot of that and concentrates the good stuff. So I use row cover during the winter. I use insect netting at the end of summer before we get into winter to help cool my cool flowers down. And it's all these little things that, the thing that I love to share with people. I understand that the cool flower concept is a little bit more complicated than growing warm season tender annuals, but there is no other group of flowers that are more worth it figuring it out for your garden, because y'all, there are flower farmers that are flipping their entire business models where they only sell cool flowers in the spring, which is the highest demand cut flower season of the year, right? It's like that's all they focus on year round, is preparing, getting ready, and having a life beyond. But cool flowers blooms in the most high demand season. Plus, if you're a home gardener, these are the flowers that roll out the red carpet to pollinators and beneficial insects when there is nothing else out there. The entomologists that have come here often remark that it has got to be because we have so many flowers so early in the season and we don't use any pesticide, organic or otherwise, is why we have such a strong community of beneficial insects. I provide a home base in our native border. We don't use pesticides, not even organics. And we have flowers from the first crack of spring. Iceland poppies for us, which are loaded in native bees when they bloom, by the way. Typically the end of March, they're starting to get busy, and then bachelor buttons start in April. And you'll find the seeds to many of those down below. So I'll tell you some of my favorite direct sown cool flowers. Bells of Ireland, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Dill, poppy pods. Those are the big poppies that the bloom only lasts a day, but we grow it for the poppy. Orlea. There are so many different bachelor button varieties or colors to choose from. Chinese forget-me-nots. Oh my gosh, y'all, you got to fall plant those seeds. They are so gorgeous. They're true blue. They're powder blue flowers. And saponaria. And there are so many different colors of larkspur and varieties. And there's just so many. So you don't have to be an indoor seed starter. You can direct seed, but there's some rules. Y'all, everything good has a price. And growing cool flowers means you have to figure out your planting windows, which I'm doing for free in a live webinar tomorrow at 12 noon, last one for the year. Won't happen again until next July. And then we have all the resources, the book, the online course, which, our courses can be watched on a phone app. So that means you have it in your back pocket when you're out in the field. It's just pretty darn priceless. And of course, my book, The Cut Flower Handbook, which I think Jesse also has in the ribbon, has 41 cool flowers in it. And it also talks about growing them. I mean, it has a lot of, it's a cool flower book, then the cut flower handbook. And then if you're a flower farmer or you just want to get this cool flower gig right, the cool flower course is for you. So friends, I'm going to sign off. I hope this has helped you to understand a little bit more and to get some tips on direct sowing. And until we meet again, my friends, thanks, Jessie, for helping. Ciao.